There's another new book out about Donald Trump, and this time it alleges that President Trump can barely read. This isn't the first story that has come out about this. In fact, there's a lot of stories and a lot of speculation that President Trump has a very hard time reading things. And so I want to share this new one with you. Now, the Washington Post, their reporters, Philip Rucker and Carol Leonnig, have written a new book about the Trump presidency. It's called A Very Stable Genius. I know, shocker, right? So now this is allegedly based on hundreds of hours of interviews with 200 sources, and they say that much of it is backed by documentary evidence. Well, we haven't seen that evidence. I don't know who their sources are. If they're anonymous, then look, let's be honest. I'm going to keep it real. Based on some of the recent revelations when it comes to sourcing and using anonymous sources that end up being like one source, CNN's journalistic, lack of journalistic ethos, the Washington Post as well. I'm a little skeptical now. So now I'm a skeptic of news. Now that doesn't mean I think every news is fake news, right? I'm not like a Trump supporter, but I do believe that there is certain biases in news. So when I see stories like this, highly critical of Donald Trump, I think, well, okay, where have I seen this before? Where did it come from? Who was the sourcing, et cetera, et cetera. So with that said, I do know, based on my own research into Donald Trump, that he's not a smart person, that he's kind of an idiot. And so this is actually believable. And so I just want to put it out there that I'm not really taking these things at face value, and no one should. Okay, anyway, now, in one episode of the book, episode from the book, Trump had agreed early on in his presidency to take part in an HBO documentary. Now, this documentary features judges, lawmakers, and all the living presidents reading aloud from the Constitution. So those right there are potential sources, right? And those would be more credible. And so, again, I haven't read the book, but seen who the sources are. But if it's like, District Judge, the Honorable Tom Thompson, I don't know if that's a real person, and he's like, yeah, the guy's an idiot. Well, then I'm more likely to believe Mr. Tom Thompson because he's a real person and he's gone on the record. So anyway, now in this, right, according to the book, Trump, while he's trying to read the Constitution, struggles and stumbles over the words. Okay, so not only does he struggle and stumble, allegedly, right, but he also, when he struggles, starts blaming everyone else in the room. Now, from what I know from Trump, that's Trump 101. So, Trump 101, it's your fault. It's your fault. So, look, if this is true, another little piece of evidence to heap on the gigantic pile showing the president is not a smart person, not a very stable genius, right? However, there is an alternative theory that I will now suggest, right? Perhaps the president needs glasses. No, well, now wait a minute. No, hear me out. President's kind of an old man, and look, sometimes when you get older, you start to lose a little bit of your vision, right? And that would possibly make you struggle and stumble over some words if you can't see them. So I'm just offering that alternative explanation to be a little bit more fair, right? In the cause of being, a good journalist, right? Because apparently there are people in the Washington Post, CNN that don't believe in journalism. And so I got to offer this alternative explanation, right? Possibility anyway. And look, that would kind of make sense. It would go along with Donald Trump because, look, this guy is all about vanity, right? And so just like he's like, oh, I would never allow myself to go bald. So he got the crazy, gross looking hair plugs. And so I would see him as somebody who didn't really want to wear glasses either. No, glasses, they make me look like a nerd. I don't want to be a nerd. Nerd, right? I could see him saying that. And so, and thinking in that way. And so that would go against the narrative slightly that he's dumb, or it could go along with it. I mean, you can obviously be somebody in glasses and still be stupid. Look at Rick Perry. He's a great example. Wears glasses, looks a little smarter, still dumb as a rock. Anyway, but it also could explain why he hates, briefings, other than his short attention span, and the fact that he can't read the Constitution, right? Uh, so now I love this quote from the book, right? Alleged quote from the president. He said this, quote, "It's like a foreign language." No, it's just big words. That's it. It's not it's not even like a foreign language. But Donald Trump speaks at a third grade level. So I guess to him, it is a foreign language when you use big, complicated words. Again, the reason I'm being super fair about this and putting this other explanation out there is, again, of course, I've seen how the corporate media operates, and I'm starting to get a realization that, yes, they don't like Donald Trump. And so maybe they're also, I'm not saying they're going back in smoke-filled rooms making up fake news, but I am saying that they may be taking things at face value just because they don't like Donald Trump. And I don't want to be that person, right? I want to be super fair before I rip into him. Now I will proceed to rip into him. If he truly has vision problems that make him unable to read and yet refuses to wear glasses, that's dumb. That's really stupid. But it would be consistent with his personality. As I said before, the vanity, right? Obsessed with looks, right? And look, that's the kind of guy who he is. But if that's not the case, and he can see, yet he still struggles with words with the Constitution, or again, both, well, that's disastrous. And by the way, not only could he not read the Constitution, but apparently he doesn't seem to understand it. The only thing that he understands about the Constitution is that, I don't know, there's a lot of people that really like that Second Amendment thing, so I'm just going to harp on that. That's it. Again, based on what I know, what I've seen, and actual people who have gone on the record, by the way, people who have spent time with Donald Trump, and people who have even instructed Donald Trump. For example, one of his professors at Wharton called him the dumbest goddamn student he had ever had. So if that doesn't say something, I mean, show you who he kind of is, I don't know what else does. Not only that, but one of the things about Donald Trump is he could never own up to any of the mistakes that he made. And that's something that we see all the time. He's always blaming somebody else. So this is, I think, believable. And another story about how the baby in chief is a complete and utter embarrassment. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.